Kia ora koutou, everyone. I'm Rachel Wise, the Relationship Manager for Hospitality, Retail Trade and Tourism in the Waikato for Westpac. We're really honoured to have you all here this evening, especially with how cold it is. So thank you for coming out tonight, to join us, because this is an event that is all about you guys. And so we really do appreciate you coming out. Westpac are proud to partner with Waikato Chamber of Commerce to deliver these Westpac Smart events. And they are intended to be able to provide insights and tools and expert knowledge to be able to, navigate around the business world that you guys know so well. Westpac across New Zealand, but specifically here in Waikato, our team and I, we've been devastated to see what you guys have had to go through over the past couple of years. And just, seeing the rising crime and what you've had to experience has just been horrific. And so we're really privileged to have Bruce Couper here to take us through some tools to try and help keep safe. And Ash Parmar, to talk about his experience as well. Most of you might know Ash already. And I'm proud to work for Westpac, a bank who, as a bank and as individuals, we really do care for our community, and we care for our local businesses like yourselves. So I also want to thank the Waikato Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank Retail NZ as well. And Ash and Bruce, you guys also care and have been also devastated by what's been going on over the last few years. So thank you for supporting us and supporting your local community and all you do, and for tonight as well. And as I said, I'm really honoured to have you here, but I just want to say a few words from me personally. Ishwar Apko, Ashivade, Ur Surakshit Breke, Nisa Yandravinaka, Matiatua Koto He Madaki. For me personally, in English, may God bless you and keep you safe. And now, on behalf of Westpac, I'll pass you over to Bruce. Hey, one more hands is Bruce.
Thanks, Rachel. Good evening, everybody. We've got 22 people who couldn't make it here tonight. I'm going to forget about them. Yeah, they're dead to me. They're not turning up. Their names are up here. You've got me for 30 minutes. I know some of you are really excited about that. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about security and how you can make your staff safer. And there's a very good reason why. There was nothing in the introduction about my background. As you can see, I used to be a model. No, that's not true. I used to be a detective. And I was a particularly grumpy mongrel when I was a detective. And I left so long ago from the CIB in Auckland that some of the people in the room weren't even born when I left the police. But in the last 33 years, I've been involved in providing training and advice and consultancy to lots of organisations, and in particular to retailers, on how to keep themselves safe. So what I invite you to do is grab your handout sheet and a pen, because you may want to take some notes along the way as I start my presentation tonight. You might, on the other hand, think that's a waste of time. The guy's a bit of a buffet, I won't bother. But let's have a look. We'll see what we're going to do over that period of time for about 30 minutes, and then I'm going to introduce Ash, and we're going to have a chat together and go through some things. Can I see a show of hands quickly? How many of you here in the room tonight work for a retail organisation? Can I see a show of hands, please? About 2/3, nearly 3/4 of the people. So that's fantastic. So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. There's already been a bit of an introduction. Things haven't got better in the last 5 years. They've got worse. Would everyone agree with that?
Yeah.
Man, it's been good for business. But seriously, I've got to tell you, it's unbelievably bad what it's doing for society right now, what's happening to people's safety. So when I started doing robbery safety training in 1990, one of my clients was Westpac, a long time ago, decades ago. And two of the three biggest trading banks in New Zealand back in those days, in 1990, had in their in-house training material, in the unlikely event of a robbery, go slow, look them in the eye, and give them the small notes first. And you're thinking to yourself, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. We've come a long way in 32 years, 33 years. These days, banks don't tend to have robberies. Why? Because they don't have much money. They've made themselves a really unattractive target. You can't do that in a small retail environment because you've either got cash, or you've got vaping product, or you've got cigarette product, or you've got other stuff of potential value that you simply have to have so you can still do business. So we have to overlay some other things that you are going to do to keep yourself and everyone else safe. Now that's not me. I aspire to being that 86 kilogram Adonis. I'm hidden. This has that inside it, but there's just an overlay. I want to talk about what happens when somebody gets in your space or the space of your staff, because what we've seen in the last, since 2018, a 400% increase on certain types of burglaries, ram raids, and in the last 18 months, about a 300% increase of aggravated robberies across the retail sector. And I know because I work for 7 or 8 very large retailers, we do an enormous amount of training for them. What gets in the way? Why is it that if somebody comes in, even if it's not a robbery, it's just somebody who comes in and they're really angry and they start shouting, banging their fist, or being rude and offensive to your staff? What gets in the way of them doing the things that they wanted to do or the things they thought they would do? What gets in the way? Adrenaline, yes. What else?
Fear.
Fear. Or, your name, sir?
Yes.
Yash. Fear or anger. And you might think that fear and anger are poles apart, but in actual fact, in a really fearful situation or one that you're really angry about, the identical thing is that you'll have a massive stress response, fight, flight, faint. It's going to happen to you. And all of your staff need to, as core part of our training, you need to know how you can actually manage yourself in that situation. And you need to practice it all the time. And there's only 3 things. They're really simple. And the first one is to breathe. Now, I know most of you can breathe, otherwise you wouldn't be here tonight. But it's about when you get that big fright, when you're under pressure, when you've got to do things that are going to make you safer, slow down and control your breathing. Why? Because it returns oxygen flow to the brain. It means you're more able to think, and you've still got a head on your shoulders, not a Drummond cabbage. We don't want you to turn into Homer Simpson in the first 30 seconds of a confrontation or a threatening situation. So the first thing is to control your breathing. And because I'm an interactive sort of a guy, I've only been in the Waikato 5 years, but I love it down here. We live in Flagstaff. I want you all to stand up, please. And I want to talk about diaphragmatic breathing because it's part of our core training that all of the people would be doing, and that is put one hand where your belly button is and the other hand gently across your chest. I know you're going to struggle with this because you're carrying a paper at the same time. Put the paper down. And what I want you to do is when you take a nice deep breath in through your nose for up to 4 seconds, you should start to fill your lungs up and push your hand out at the bottom. So nice deep breath in through your nose and then out through the mouth. And have a seat, please. I can't get you to take a second or a third or a fourth breath because you're fully oxygenated. If you take a third breath and you fall over, that's my last speaking engagement this month. I don't get guided back. But number 1 is controlled breathing. Number 2 is positive mental self-talk. Would you believe that we are hardwired to think negatively? All the time in situations that are new to us, foreign to us, or scary to us, our subconscious is looking for an escape route and we're thinking the worst. And I know this because for many years, until about 3 or 4 years ago, I used to run live robbery simulations on our courses. I don't do it anymore. I did it all across the UK, did it in Australia, did it here for many years. And I'll tell you that if you're not trained on how to do this stuff to manage yourself and to stay a little bit calm so that you can think and respond, people only have really negative thoughts. What's going to happen now? Is the gun real? Is he going to shoot me? And they freak out. And we don't want them to do that. So the very things you should be saying to yourself is stay calm, be calm, I've got this, I can deal with this. If the person's angry and aggressive and they're saying stuff you don't like, whether it's racist, ageist, sexist, this is their problem. I just need to get past that and try and get them out of the place. But I can handle this. I'm going to be okay. That'll help us to stay calmer rather than the opposite. Okay? And the third and final thing up there is visualization. Now, this is between shitty customers. How many have had shitty customers this month? I don't even have a retail store and I'm definitely... But between when you get an aggro situation and you get this extra rush of adrenaline and cortisol in your body, they're like a poison in your body, you need to get rid of them and use them up. So one of the things you can do is to exercise between events and that sort of thing. But the other one is to take yourself to your calm place. And I invite you, in your book right now, where it says visualization, I want you each individually to write down where is the one place in the world where you feel most calm. Where are you? Write it down for me now. Write it down. Where are you? What do you see? And where are you at the place you feel most calm? It could be somewhere you go all the time. It could be somewhere you've only been once or twice in your life, but it's your calm place. Remember, Happy Gilmore went to his happy place? Oh, and you'd go to your calm place. Can everyone write something down, please? As quickly as you can. Because I've only got 30 minutes. I'm used to talking for 8 hours. Wouldn't that be exciting having me in front of you 8 hours? You're going, thank God I came here at night and I'll get out of the room in the next 20 minutes. Happy days. After Ash has actually entertained you, after I finish doing this. Visualisation. So, how many of you wrote down that you were at the water or near the water at the beach, lake? Can I see a show of hands? Put your hands right up if you saw the water. About 40% of the people, standard group. How many of you were at home with nearest and dearest, family home, that kind of thing? That's about another 35%. Not many left now. How many of you were in the great outdoors, in the mountains or out in the trees or mountain biking or something like that? Not many. What about a place of worship for a few of you? Yep. And anything left? I've had, over the years, a couple of others. What were they?
Oh, mine's the sauna with the lads.
Sauna with the lads. Nice one, Sam. This is the rugby team, or? Yeah, cool. Okay, nice one. So over the years, I've been given different answers to this, and one of the ones, which has only been a very small subset of people, which is Pacifica woman, and it's only a small subset of Pacifica, have said to me, babies. Babies make me feel calm. Well, I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but I've got 3 sons, 37, 35, and 17. There's nothing about those guys ever made me feel calm. I love them, but calm doesn't come into it. So here are the things that we can do in terms of looking after our stress response. I want to talk now a little bit about, we're going to build up for a crescendo. We'll finish with robberies and ramrods, but let's start with the day-to-day stuff that retailers are plagued with, and that's people coming in who steal stuff, right? All the time. And we've got an epidemic of it going on at the moment. And people will say to me, well, it's, hard financial times and all that. And I say that's a very small part of it, because most people who don't steal, even when they get really behind the 8 ball and they're struggling to pay their bills, don't actually go to the shop and steal. But those who it's normal for just do it more and more and bigger. Does that make sense to everyone? And we employ a number of loss prevention officers. We now got the contract to provide them to the warehouse to supplement their in-house team, doing exactly this, dealing with thieves, trying to prevent it. So let's think about prevention in a retail store. What do you want forget about all the security systems, cameras and all that stuff. What do you want your staff to do that's going to send a message to everyone who walks in the door that it's going to be hard to steal in here? What do you want staff to do? Greet them. Fantastic. What's your name, please?
Teresa.
Teresa. Meet, greet, eye contact, smile, say something nice. Especially if you go, oh, look at this little dirtbag coming in. He's got dark glasses, he's got his cap down, and I'm like, he's making me feel really bad. All the more reason we're going, g'day, how are you? Did you see the sign? Did you mind just putting your head around? How are you? If you need a hand with anything, I'm just right over here. So customer service, number one. And here's the thing, guys. Bottle stores, dairies, superettes, all these places adopt one of the things that some of the large franchise chains are doing, like Liquorland or the trusts in Auckland or Superliquor, all 3 of whom are clients in mine. Think about some signage that you will not allow anyone coming in the door who is wearing a hat, hoodies or glasses. But you need the signage there to support what the staff say. So when the staff go, well, g'day mate, excuse me, did you see the sign? He goes, what do you mean the sign? Could you just take off your hat and glasses? Why should I do that? F off. If he says that, don't serve him. Can you just leave, please? We don't want your business. If you've got good quality CCTV, it's no use to you unless you've got a decent picture of the person. And if they've got dark glasses and a peaked cap on, you can't see their face. So your cameras have been negated already. So the first thing is fantastic customer service. This is what to do. What else can you do? So you've got your cameras, you're having a look. What are you teaching your staff to do if they think somebody is grabbing some bottles or putting it in a bag or putting it in the thing here? This is not a violent, threatening situation yet, but they're looking to steal, or you think they're looking to steal. Should we go up to them and say, I've rang the police, stop here, stop in the name of the law, I want those bottles back? What could possibly go wrong? I did some training about 6 or 8 months ago for a relatively new client of ours. I've only done a couple of small pieces for them so far. And they are called Crackerjack. And they've got a number of 16 stores. They're like a miniature version of the warehouse. And when I ran the course for all their managers in Taupo, one of the guys who'd been in retail 25 years told me about his experience. He shared it with the rest of the group, that about a month before, wherever his store is in New Zealand, he had a couple of young female staff members. They saw 2 or 3 young women, I think I can call them that, young female people, somewhere between the ages of about 14 and 20, who came in and were stealing stuff and putting it in bags. And they went and told him. And he went round to go and approach them to try and prevent the loss or to get them to leave. But what he didn't see was that behind him, his junior staff members went straight to the front door and locked the bloody door. So what do you reckon these 3 juvenile females did to a guy 52, 53 years of age? They attacked him. And, you know, like he's old-fashioned, he's not going to try and hit these people, but they attacked him and knocked him over, and they kept the living daylights out of him for about 3 minutes until the staff, terrified, unlocked the door and ran away, which then facilitated the egress of the offenders. That's what we're up against. When I was delivering training for retailers about retail theft 25 years ago, we taught people to approach, try and get the goods back, ask them to come back into the shop, and guess what? They used to come back in. They used to wait for the police to arrive, most of them, and we get the goods back and we report them to the police, and the police would, and you bring the police and they'd turn up. There's a novel concept, isn't it? Police are lucky to turn up as an aggravated robbery, never less anything else. So you guys are way more responsible for dealing with your own stuff, okay? So you need to know that when you're talking about what you should do, yes, if you see somebody looking to steal, you want your staff to approach them, but you should never block their way. Does that make sense? You come from the other side and you say, oh, here you go. Oh, those things that you chose over there, that you've got, they're really popular. How are you paying, cash or card? He goes, what do you mean? So the ones that are in your bag. Treat them as a customer with a difference. Try and get them to pay for the goods. Some of them pay. Some of them go, F you, leave the things behind and walk out the door. That's a fantastic result. The goods haven't been stolen and he's doing all this and he leaves. But if he grabs them and goes, and he threatens, you get out of his way and didn't go. Does that make sense? You need a process, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what you should do. So the what not to do, and you can take some notes about it, the what not to do not block their way. Do not accuse them of stealing. Do not go and try and take the goods back out of their bag. And we've all watched the videos, right? Guys in your industry and others in retail getting bottled with a 40-ounce bottle of gin or bourbon in the head 2, 3, 4 times. And it could have all been avoided if only there was a plan in place about making an approach safely. And the first part of it is you can't stop these mongrels from stealing. The best you can hope to do is to make it harder at your store to be anonymous and invisible and get them to go somewhere else. And I'm sad to say it, but that's about the best you can do. You need to be better than the other guys around you. It's a bit like if Ash and I are out in the Serengeti, I'm going to be outrun the lion. I'm just going to be outrun Ash, right? Same thing, same principle. You've just got to be better than the others. And you've got that capacity to be better at customer service, to have a planned approach, to make those approaches to people and try and get the goods paid for. But if it gets threatening or violent, get out of the way and let them have it. Then lock the store, ring the police, do your 10-5 thing, or all the rest of it that people do. Any other questions about, as you can see, it's going to be hard to shut me up once I'm starting. A few things I want to talk about procedures. One of the things that's happening a lot at the moment, and you've all heard about this, the New Zealand Police, the Retail Crime Investigation Response Unit, Matt Tierney is the boss, and Matt Murray, and he's got 3 analysts and 2 other investigators, and they cover the whole of New Zealand. And all that they're doing is picking off on reports from Aura, the worst of the worst multiple serial offenders in retail around the country, and they're putting a file together and sending it out to the districts in the hope that somebody from the district will go and make an arrest. And they are getting some arrests because you're talking about people who are walking crime wave, and they might have done, there's 50 victims and they've done 300 offences. It's the same people. The same people who drive off at Z also go in and steal from Briscoe's, and they steal from the warehouse, and they steal from everywhere else. They steal from your store, and they do the whole thing. So common recognised numbers and all the rest of it. What I want you guys to think about is what you can do in your own store about some procedures. Now, I don't know, some of you will know the gentleman who had the tragic thing where he lost his fingers in Frankton some months ago. And what made that doubly tragic for me to look at that as an outsider was that they'd spent some serious money on putting some security in place, but they didn't have the procedures to go with it. What I mean by that is that when he unlocked and opened in the morning, he was just about opening, in that opening phase, but the front door was wide open and the offenders were on him before he could get out of the way. And he tried to retreat to a safe zone out the back, and then he was chased and So we've got to be ahead of the game, ladies and gentlemen, and have some good procedures from opening and closing time to using our security systems in a way that's going to make us safer. So if you want to learn a few things tonight about security at your own site, your own retail site, think about the very outer perimeter. It's called onion ring or concentric security. You start at the very outside and you look at every layer on the way in, either to the thing of most value, be it cigarettes or cash, or more importantly, you and your staff. Where can you go? Where's your safe haven within the store to make yourself safe? And what I'm really concerned about with the police initiative and MB, I've only just found out MB are doing it as well. They're putting in fog cannons everywhere. And they've done 900 since February. And one company that's installed 420 of them have come to me and said, we're really worried because we're putting in fog cannons. No one knows where they should go. We just put them in. They've got an activator. And if it's right above the person at the counter, activating it might be the very thing that gets you hit with a hammer half a dozen times before they flee out the door. So when we think about concentric security, the very outer ring, in a lot of small retailers, why don't you do what the TAB have done, who are a big client of mine? Think about when there's only one staff member on, first thing in the morning, or you're not really busy with lots of other customers, have that external door locked. Have a camera, you can see the monitor, and have an intercom. And it's a sign there, and they're going to push the buzzer to be let in. And you go, morning, how are you? Can you just look up for the camera, please? And they look up and they've got all this stuff covering their face. You say, could you just take those off, please? And then I'll let you in. And he goes, effing bleepity bleep bleep, and you say, just leave him ringing the police. Go, don't let him in, okay? But if he's got no disguise on, and he hasn't got a mate with him, that's why you need external cameras, and he's not carrying a bag with something about this big with it, we let him in. And then we've got some semblance of control. And if we have got a device like a fog cannon, what we need the fog cannon to be in such a situation that if we can activate it, we activate it from a safe position. And that should be your safe room or safe haven out the back. You haven't got to build like a panic room. What you need is somewhere that you can exit to really quickly with a solid core door or a metal frame door, and you have a monitor in there, and you activate the fog cannon from there because it drives the person out of the store. Because now they can steal stuff, but they can't hurt you because you're away from them. But you do it in front of them, it could get you killed. Can't say it's stronger than that. And I've been doing this sort of training for a very long time. So let's talk about opening and closing. Have you got a procedure for opening and closing? So if we talk about aggravated robbery, historically, aggravated robbery there is a heightened risk of a planned robbery immediately before and after opening in the morning and immediately before and after closing at night. Why is that? Why do you think there's a heightened risk?
Habits things that they're watching the shop.
Yep. Watching the shop, they know, yes. And what else? Why do they want to get into the place? Yeah, well, there's no customers around, but also there's no time constraints. Like during the day, somebody does an aggravated robbery in a retail environment. Most of them are over in 60 seconds, 90 seconds. But if I get there before you're open in the morning, and this used to happen in the banking sector, and I'll pick on them, even though they're still a client, but from a long time ago, they used to be called the Auckland Savings Bank, the ASB. They never used to have monitored alarms at their branches. They had seismic safes, put all the money away, until they had 2 armed robberies that happened because the people broke in overnight, didn't activate an alarm, and then waited in the branch and did the robbery when all the staff had arrived. That can't happen anymore. So opening and closing, you need to think about this for you and for all of your staff. Have some really good protocols when you arrive at the site. Where do you park? It's wintertime in Kirikiriroa, so you're a bit concerned about like it's cold and it's damp, and you park in the usual place and you get out of the car, you're on your phone, you go to the door. Well, it's too late now because the car that was parked in the car park's got 2 guys with rolled up beanies, and they could be partaking of uawa nasty or tipupi thunder in the car, or they could be having a gun ready to rob the place. But you won't know if you don't look. So opening and closing, it should be totally secure, access control, your intruder alarm detection system. When you unlock, you go inside, you relock it. Then you go and set up your camera and you get ready for the day's trading. Does that make sense to everyone? And I've got my safe haven, I know where I'm going, so if next thing somebody's banging on the door and there's 3 of them balaclavaed, guess what? They're not there to buy anything. So as a result, we're going to go to our safe haven, we're going to ring the cops outside line 111. So you need a process for opening and closing. And what I've found is that in the last 2-3 years, we're getting robberies happening at any time of the day, and it's happening to some of our clients. During COVID, it was happening because people were wearing masks. So the TAB had more robberies in 1 year than they had the previous 15 combined during COVID, or the tail end of COVID, because of the masks. Now they haven't had one since, thank goodness for that. So I still stay in a job. Opening and closing. This is really important stuff. When your staff leave at night, yes.
And how should you handle closing or opening the door when you tend to have your face towards the door and your back towards the outside?
Oh, you mean the setup of the store?
No, as you are opening the door to go into your store.
Well, that's about situational awareness. That means you're not on your phone, it's covered later on in this thing. So what you're going to be doing, it's what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you sense. Being at alert. World needs more alerts, be one of them. You need to be on the ball when you get to work because you are vulnerable. And if you see something there that you can flee, like you get there and you park in the car park and you see something, don't bloody get out of the car, drive a couple of hundred metres down the road, turn around and have a look and see what's going on and wait to see what's happening. I take more security precautions than anyone in this room. And yet I think I can look after myself a little bit, but I do that because I know what the consequences are of not doing it. And so I practice what I preach all the time. Okay? Right, let's look at cash control. You need a process and a system to minimise the amount of cash, same as with cigarettes. And I love what you told me, Ash, about cigarettes at your store, or one or two of the stores, where you only have 1 or 2 packets of each of the 3 brands on display. Not 50 or 100 or a big... Now at the back, you've got a whole lot more because you sell a lot of cigarettes, right? But you want to create the illusion that you're carrying a very small amount of stock. And if they come in and the last one was just sold, sorry mate, we've run out of that, and we send them away, but after he's gone 5 minutes, driven away, we go at the back and we restock a couple more. That's really smart because what you're doing is reducing the reward, which makes it less likely to get targeted. So with a couple of our clients who have got time delay safes for their major amount of money, they have other floats, and in a robbery situation, we're happy to lose the smaller amounts of money, but if we do things right, we may well not lose the large amount because we're happy to give this up. But this takes, no one's waiting 10 minutes, I tell you, to get the time delay undone, okay? Or 15 or whatever it is. So cash control. How many of you do your own banking? How many of you do your own cash ups? Put it all together and then walk down to the bank or drive down? You use cash pickup company?
No, we come to another
Yep.
don't walk anyway.
Okay. So you drive. Different times of the day. Doesn't have a bag with BNZ or Westpac. Sorry, Westpac. No, I'm only joking. I like that. But it doesn't have a thing with Westpac on it, right? Because that's like, please rob me on the bag. It'll be just like a satchel or something else. And we change the bag, sports bag, and we change the time of day. But you need to get really good at this. When you're doing your banking, cashing up at the site, it should be done behind a locked door in front of a camera at all times. And that helps any issue with, if you did get a cash pickup from ACM or someone else or one of the other firms, and they pick up your money and take it away and they sign for it, and they go, oh, there was money missing out of there. Well, we've got the cameras, we can show that we did the cashing up in front of the camera, put it in the bag, put it back in the safe, took it out and gave it to them. It's on them. And we don't want to think our staff might have done something wrong, but sometimes people do. Banking I've talked about, so have a process for doing it. Think about what's going to make you safer all the way through when you're doing that. And again, it's about being not perceived as a really easy target or a great success. And one of the reasons why with the TAB they haven't had a lot of repeat offenders in the way they used to get robberies is that when people have come in, they get in bugger all. They get a couple $100 because it's only the top drawer that's available. And then if you go in there, if you have a big collect at the TAB, not that it's ever happened to me, it might have happened to someone else, and it's never happened to me. But if you have a big collect, you can't go and pick up the money. They'll say, oh, you got to put it into your account. Or we can give you $300, but you have to wait 5 minutes or 7 minutes. Oh, right, fantastic. Get that. But it's a really good methodology because it's not easy to get the money really quickly. Security systems, let's talk about those. How many of you have got an intruder alarm detection system at your site? Yes. How many of you have got CCTV at your site? Yes. How many of you have got fog cannons? A few of you have. Now, the reason I single out those who are in retail that have got fog cannons, I want you to be aware that if you're going to have them there, you've got to be very, very clear for all the staff if you're going to activate when you should activate. And I've got a problem doing it in front of the offender, here or under here. I want to be out the back doing it. I want to flee and escape and then activate. Because if I do it and where it's set up it shouldn't be above the counter. It should be in the middle of the, depending how big your store is, and it should be pointed toward the front door. That's why you need to slow them down at the doors. If they come in, you can activate quickly, and that pushes them back out the door. Does that make sense? I was in a jewellery store in Auckland the other day. They've got a number of stores. Can't tell you who they are. It's not Michael Hill, it's another one. And they've got a number of stores, and I've had a look at where this, and we've just proposed to do a big risk review for them. And at a couple of these stores, I've had a look where I couldn't find their fog cannons, and they said they had some, so we had a closer look, and they're recessed into the ceiling, very high-end jewellery, above the door. So if somebody in the store activates that, when you've got armed defenders in, they're not going to be able to get out. They're not going to be able to find their way to the front door. What could possibly go wrong with two blokes with guns trapped in your store full of jewellery and a whole lot of terrorised staff? So where they are is really important. When you activate them is important, and they're not a magical solution. Okay? The magical solution is control the outer limit and measure who's coming into the store. And if you've got high risk, stop them coming in, let your locals in, and get them aware. Everyone's got to have everything showing to us. And when they come in, we do our transaction with them, and the next person gets in, we're busy, but they can't get in. And then I look at my thing, and I go, I don't think so. We have a conversation, and we send them off down the road somewhere else. So, other things around security systems. Anyone here have Aura that reports to the retail organisation about crime at their place? No. Only the large retailers tend. It's quite expensive. It's a pretty good service. They do get some additional response because of having it. But let's quickly move on. So security systems. I'm concerned. I've got a meeting tomorrow with a bloke who owns a security company who's done 420 installations since February of this year into small dairy superettes, liquor stores, and they're putting in. It's all funded by MB, not the police. And there's no risk assessment, there's no training, there's no policy or procedures, and they're just putting in fog cannons. And so he's going to get me to run a session for try and get as many of his retailers and film it, and then put it out to all the retailers and say, you guys, you've got this, it costs you $400, you've got $4,000 worth of kit, but if you learn some stuff, this is going to make you safer. It's up to you. Everyone in the room wants to be safer, right? Everyone wants to go home to their family. No one wants to get hurt or worse. So we're all on the same page. Okay, let's have a look at this. Overall structure. Awareness, precautions, preparation. This is the app before there was an app. Before there was mobile phones. No, not quite. But it did have an audio box. It was this big. And here are the three things. If you want to make some notes, scribble some stuff down. A few throwaway lines that I use in all of the training sessions I run. If you want to be safer all the time, there's two elements to awareness. The first one is to use all of your senses at all times. Use all of your senses at all times to ensure that things appear normal. Now, you know your own work environment. You know what normal looks like. You know what is normal in the car park. You know what's normal out on the street. Use all of your senses at all times to ensure that things appear normal. One of our big clients in Auckland is Watercare, who supply fresh water and take away the wastewater. And Auckland say, why are we dealing with them? Because they get lots of aggro and threats and assault against their people. Go onto people's properties, dig up the roads, do all kinds of stuff. Recently, we did a new training video for them because they've instituted massive upgrade of security at their pump stations, and they put Uncle Bill Gallagher's brand new U-boot access control in all of them, right, from out in Kikatea Drive. And the training video was designed that I would do a voiceover to explain when you unlock the gate, we go to this building 2 stories above ground, about 8 stories below ground, to a pump station in the middle of the night, how you access the door and put in the code and go inside and have to do the same. I said to them, if we're going to tell them that, we need to give them more information. When they turn up and they're on their own, it's dark, and he gets out of the truck, he should get out of the truck and go to a couple of metres within the door, and the security light comes on, and he should stop, he should listen, he should look both ways, and he should take a deep sniff. Why would he do that? This is a secure compound that no one should have been in for hours. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. He's got a call out because of some mechanical fault in the pump station. Why is he taking a deep sniff? What could he smell that would mean, uh-oh, and he jumps in his truck and drives back out, goes down the road and rings the security firm to come and turn up?
Smoke.
Smoke, cigarette smoke, cologne, body odour, dope, anything. Because if no one's been there for hours, there's no smoke, there's no smell of people, right? So I want you to think about that. Use all of your senses at all times to ensure that things appear normal. And I encourage people to do this when they're out walking, when they go into their shopping, when they go anywhere. Because the truth of the matter is that everyone in this room could be present during a really bad situation like an act robbery, and it may not be at work. You could be going to do your shopping. You could be heading home. It can happen anywhere these days. So that's the first part of awareness. The second part of awareness is when things are not normal, do something now to make yourself safer. Can you write that down, please? Because most people don't do that. When they see something's not quite right, when they see something that, upsets that sort of, you get the funny feeling in your pit of your stomach, you get that uneasy, queasy feeling empty in your tummy, you get the hair standing on end, those are signs of nervousness, response. What do most people do? They don't know what it is yet, but they've seen a vehicle or seen a person a second or a third time, and they're getting these bad feelings. But to make the bad feelings go away, they reevaluate what they're seeing, and then they feel better. And then the bad thing happens. So what I'm saying is, if something sets off your stress response around you feeling suspicious about a person, do something now to make yourself safer. About the car, the person, the other person, whatever it is, go to your safe zone, tell your manager, tell this, get the staff to talk to each other, write down the car details, because they might come back 5 or 10 minutes later, and now you can't see what they look like because they've already got the balaclavas on. Most robbers will not come to the site and do a robbery unless they've been there multiple times before to suss the place out. And a lot of times they want to try and defeat the cameras. That's why we want full, g'day, here you go, mate. Big smile, like Steve would do. The second part, precautions. How many of you take lots of sensible precautions to make yourself safer? Fantastic. So, how many of you drive a car? How many of you, when you get in that car, any time of the night or day, you get in the car, sit down, and you put central locking on? Fantastic. Fantastic. Awesome.
Because I have cables and everything understood.
Right.
They will put the side door and grab my purse.
Right. Grabbed your purse from in the car. And that's really upsetting, but it could have been way worse, right? So lock your car doors. If you want to learn one thing out of this session tonight, lock your car doors. Why? Because when the car is stationary, going really, really slow, you're an easy victim. Really easily victimised. The other thing about precautions, though, is instill it in your staff. I was running a session for the TAB regional meeting a few days ago, and talking to them about all of their managers, we do lots of training for them, how are they going to keep this stuff alive for their staff? And I said, what about this? What about having something that you do for your staff? Pay attention to how many of them. So have another look at your policies and procedures around security, opening, closing, cash handling, dealing with aggravated people, trying to de-escalate and being a good listener. And find your staff doing something right. Don't find them doing things wrong. Reward the ones who are doing it really well. The ones who prevent the theft and report things. Think about the OSPAs or the Oscars, the Outstanding Security Performance Award, Outstanding Security Contribution Award. Might only cost you $10, you know what I mean? It could be a voucher to KFC, or it could be a fuel thing. It's about $3 something a litre. Give them $20 of the fuel. Actually get them to understand that security is a little part of everyone's job every day. It's not your job, and it's not their job on their own, but it's a part of everybody's job every day. Because that's what's going to keep us safer from being victimised and potentially a whole lot worse. But the last thing here is about preparation. So you've got to practice this. You need a plan. So if you don't have a plan, go away and think about how you might write one. For your business, and for a lot of you folks here, when I was a detective in Auckland decades ago, the Indian community in Auckland had their own phone book, because everyone was phone books, right? And had their own phone book. Nowhere near as big as the white or yellow page, it's about a quarter of the size, but it was a big phone book. And some bad guys who were burglars got a hold of that phone book. And have a guess what it had in the Indian community phone book in Auckland? It had cross-reference between the home address and their business addresses. So when they were working at the Crystal Palace Picture Theatre, or they're running the Superette here and the Capitale and everywhere else, these guys would go around and do the burglaries of the houses and steal all the gold and jewellery and stuff. So in terms of preparation, what you need to do is make yourselves a less attractive target. You need to protect what's most important, which is your people and yourselves. And then you need to have different degrees of what there is access to. And I'm going to come to that under robbery safety in a minute. Any other questions or thoughts? I'm sort of going through this pretty quickly. But preparation, training. Here's the thing. I'll finally get a chance to mention it. Where's Nigel? Nigel's having a point. Nigel's from Retail New Zealand. Hands up, Nigel. So, look, fantastic. Retail New Zealand, through their website, have 2 of our online training programs. And this is not a sales pitch. You're going to get given something. Imagine turning up and you get given something. And it's funded by our sponsor tonight, Westpac. Yahoo. So what you're going to receive from the chamber on behalf of Westpac, or from Westpac with the chamber, is you're going to get some information, and it's going to be like a voucher or a code, and you're going to be able to go into that, and you're going to be able to access our 2 online training programs and not pay for them. And they both take about 20 or 30 minutes to do. One of them is on personal safety and conflict management, dealing with angry, upset, aggressive people. And the other one is about robbery safety, how to keep yourself safe during a robbery. And they retail through Retail NZ for non-members at $49 and for members at $29. And there's thousands of iterations there. But yeah, it's going to be provided to you. So a big round of applause for Westpac, please. Yes. For those of you who came here tonight, you actually get something other than one of those nice potato and steak little things up there. Before I introduce Ash, I just want to get to this little bit here. This is my passion is about keeping people safe during a robbery. And I'm pleased to say we've been pretty successful at doing that. I don't know of anyone who's been badly hurt in a robbery confrontation. And I sometimes joke with people that we train for and say, you know, of all the people that we've trained and have then been robbed, it's now probably thousands, more than hundreds, but it's not compulsory to get robbed. But it's just that we've trained so many people over the years. But how do you keep yourself safe? Very simple mnemonic. This is used by pretty much all the banking sector and groups and everything. This particular mnemonic, so I've used one of 3 over the years. And this one was originally put together by a sergeant in South Australian Police in the late 60s. So no one owns it. Happy days, we can use it as much as we want rather than the others like calm and cops. So the first thing is, if you want to stay safe in a robbery situation, you've got to be able to stay calm. We talked about that 30 minutes ago. Control your breathing, positive mental self-talk, visualisation. The second bit is exactly as important as the first bit. You have to obey. If you can't get yourself before the action happens into the safe zone, you're in front of them, you need to obey. Let them have whatever they want as quickly as possible. Does that make sense, everyone? That's the bit that'll stop you from getting hurt. So I've run thousands of these courses for tens of thousands of people over the last 30 years, and I can tell you so many horror stories about what's gone wrong and what's happened in the hospital industry. Thirsty Whale up in Auckland, Thirsty up in Three Kings. That if the manager decides he's not going to give him the money, and then they beat him, and he's in the next room and there's customers and staff there, and then they beat him and beat him and beat him and beat him and threaten his life, not only is he physically assaulted, what does that do to all the other people that are there during that 2-minute situation where they think he's going to be killed? It traumatises the hell out of them. So 2 elements to obey. One, you have to want to obey, and somebody's got a gun or a knife, and I've got some stuff of value, mate, you can have it all, it's over there. So I want to obey, but you've got to show how you're going to obey. Does that make sense? If I talk about women's personal safety, the last thing we want you to do is obey and be a good victim. All right? 120 decibels, stab in the eyes with your fingernails, use other things we could talk about if we go down that path. But this is different. If we know that what they want is the reward, they want control, they want easy, they want the reward, and they want easy egress from the premises, let them do that as quickly as is possible. Yes?
I was just wondering with the obey thing, so for me in a situation, like, or not just me, but what if you were naturally not likely to do that?
Yep.
So from the outside-
Rachel, I'd already picked up on that. I think what you need to do is you need to practice it. And that's why role-playing training is so valuable, to show that you reset what your thinking is in that regard. Because let's be really honest about it. It doesn't matter whether it's $500 for the cigarettes or $2,000 in cash. None of that actually matters a jot if you can stay physically safe and your staff is safe rather than getting stabbed, bottled, whatever it is. Are we agreed on that? So it's about having some training that really works in that regard. You're going to have to want to do it. And guess what? If you're just passive, so everyone put down the books and stand up, please. Let's have a look at how we obey. What does obey look like? It's not normal behaviour. Obey, if I've got, here we are, that's my 38 caliber weapon, 9mm, right? But it's only one of these things. If you want to show me passivity and compliance, just put down your papers if you can. Think about this for a second. If I put this at you and I say, this is where I can put your hands up, to all of you, what should you do? Put your bloody hands up. And if I'm looking at you and say, don't look at me. Sam, you've got to look down, mate. You've got to look down. You've got to look away. You've got to show me passivity and compliance, because otherwise you're going to get hurt. Now, here's the interesting thing, and I've done this for so long. A big dude like yourself is if he's just standing there, but he's actually really not making an effort to look like he's passive and compliant, he's way more likely to get hurt than a petite female. Why? Because I've got a disguise on, and if you're a petite female and you're not doing me, I'll just bloody ignore you. It's very intuitive, very instinctive. So, obey means showing passivity and compliance. So what should you do with your hands? If I haven't told you to put them up, you need to open them up like that. Open them up so I can see the palms of your hands. Look down so you don't look me straight in the eye. That's why we get our people that we train for in their staff practice this, even at the telcos now, because of what they've been experiencing. Why? Because that's what will keep you safer. Show that you're obeying and let them have what it is. So a few extra things. If you're asked to do something and you can't do it, like he says, here, fat boy, Uncle Fester, open the safe. And I go, I can't. Does he interpret that as I can't or I won't? So I need to know the procedures at my store. So if I say, I don't have a key to the safe, but you can have my float, it's over here, you can have my gaming money, you can have this, you can have that. Because bro, I'm on your team. Does that make sense?
Right.
If you haven't practiced it,
No.
yeah, right. Well, that's exactly right. And that's the whole thing, Paul, is that organisations need to know if only one person's got access to the safe and the manager's there, only the manager's got it, he's over there. Am I going to give the manager up? Yes, Ash, in a heartbeat I am, because he's the guy who's got to open it and let them have the money. Okay? So obey, you've got to practice it. And it makes a massive difference. And we don't get tragedies that come out the other end. Have a seat again, please, if you can. The last two things. Observe only when safe to do so. So when there's someone in the car park and you're looking at the screen, you can start, taking a still photograph and you can do stuff. But when they're in your presence, you're not going like this, following them around the place. If they've got a weapon, you're totally passive. You're taking in the information, breathing. But if they come in front of you with a bag and you can see what the glove that's on the hand or what the bag, little photograph, little snapshot. That's what you see. But you're not putting yourself in danger. That's why I say observe only when safe to do so. And the last bit is, any bad event happens at your retail store, you want the offenders to leave with a reward as quickly as possible. Okay? So Westpac was Westpac Trust when they bought Trust Bank. Within a relatively short period of time, while it was still called Westpac Trust, they had a terrible tragedy at one of their branches in or Titan, in Lower Hutt. And what happened was a gang prospect went into the store with a sawn-off shotgun, did a robbery. And it's only a few hundred metres from the local police station. And some members of the public had seen it produce the gun, and they ran down to the police station and told them. The police turned up, got guns out of the safe and turned up down there. Do you want armed police turning up when you've got people with weapons in your store? No. You want them to get whatever is available and leave you alone and have the police deal with it somewhere else. Is everyone clear on that? Because you've got no control over the outcome. And the guy, Bill Brown, I think his name was, who was the head teller, he was the only male in the branch, and the offender was there for a very long period of time. And he'd done all the right things, as had the other staff. But something happened in here when the police were on the phone talking to the offender, and he was over there, and he rushed the young guy to try and get the gun off him. And the guy turned, and he was fatally shot from point blank range with a sawn-off shotgun. Terrible tragedy for all concerned. And so what I'm saying here is, obey. But after the offenders have gone, two things we need to do. After bad things have happened and the offenders have gone, what do we do? What do we do with our store? Lock the bloody doors. So make a note of that. This is preserve life and evidence. Lock the doors, and you need good systems to be able to do that quickly and efficiently. You may have a central lock for the doors. Ring the police on 111 as quickly as you possibly can. And I make light of the fact that their response times are terrible, but we saw in Auckland last week that if there are firearms involved and it's a really bad event, 8-9 minutes we get the first police cars and then a myriad of them thereafter. But if you get somebody stealing bottles of booze, they're not going to turn up, right? You get somebody threatening your staff, they're not going to turn up. We've got to manage a lot of the stuff ourselves. So preserve life and evidence. So we leave everything the same as it was. So that, now, what we're going to do now, I think that's the end of mine. Is it the last thing? Let's go. Let's leave that. So, Ash, do you want to come up and stand next to me? Mm-hmm. So we only met a few weeks ago, and we live near each other. How many stores have we got left for you? 4 bottles, yeah. And tell the people what's happened over the last 3 or 4 years in terms of the types of events you've experienced across your stores, please.
So, it's in 3 parts, really. A serious escalation in shoplifting, which stores really have no ability to claim. You know, I'll break it down in 3 parts for you. Think of takeaways, you know, your eateries and stuff. Think of maybe dairies, convenience stores, and think of liquor stores. Your average takeaway turns over around $500,000 a year. Net profit around 60, 80K, right? Your dairies, they vary a bit, $1 million a year, net profit 120K a year. That's a really good profit. And the liquor stores around $1.5 million to 2 million. All my full stores sit around there. Net profit 250K to 320K. The way it sits right now, every dollar that's shoplifted from these shops, there's no ability to claim any of it because police don't turn up anymore. The community doesn't care. So the takeaway owner, the glass gets smashed, someone thinks it's funny to take a couple of V bottles, they're really, really ruined. Your dairies in the middle, you know, obviously you've got your many different levels of threats, you know, your ram race, your aggravated robbery, all that kind of stuff that takes an effect. And the liquor stores. Liquor stores are the worst. I own them. If someone takes 4 bottles of Jim Beams, that's $200. No one's paying you for it. That's coming out of the retailer's pocket, and that's the problem, right? So I've covered the shoplifting part. The second part is the ram raid. It started as a fun game after COVID. I think one day some kids realized 9% of the liquor stores in the country have glass doors or have very easy doors. You can just steal a car and just launch a 2-ton missile into the door. And it worked really well. It was very rewarding. You can just come in, take whatever you want. Cops started coming around and said, hey, I think you need to have a bollard or something like that. And a lot of the shops complied. You know, they begged, borrowed some gear. Some got professional bollards put in. They are in place now. But these kids are very, very smart. All the people who are over the age of 18, they're very, very smart. They realize that we can't just do an easy ram raid. We need to start moving back towards aggravated robbery, which was very rife. When I first came to New Zealand, I remember there was a time from 2001 to 2008, just about every 3-4 weeks, the banks at the Chartwell Mall used to get robbed, or the ACM vans, all those kind of vans. And obviously, very smart people like Bruce built the systems to stop a lot of that kind of stuff. But now they're running into the shops. Who has been around a shop in Hamilton has seen a cage in front of it? Just about all of you, right? Do you like doing that? Do you like living like that? Have a moment to think about what it makes people working behind that cage. I remember talking to Bruce Couper. He's the district commander of police. I was invited to be the ethnic advisory board to come in and say, I guess all of this stuff. And I said to him, Bruce, I've been going to zoos for a long time. You know, I grew up in India. We used to go to the zoo. I've been to the Hamilton Zoo here. But when we go to the zoo, the dangerous animals are in the cage. But now the roles have been reversed. We've been told to stay in the cage, do all the security stuff, but the animals are out there and they can attack any of you guys. And they are attacking people. There's carjackings happening in Hamilton. There's older ladies withdrawing cash from ATMs, getting looted from. And the retailers have been saying it for a long time. We've been suffering while government of today has been doing whatever they need to do, but things are escalating towards the bad things. In terms of the robberies, I've done a lot of media as an independent person, you know, for a long time. I have an ability to speak. I can speak clearly. I do a lot of whiskey tasting. That's a whole different thing. But that gives me the ability to speak and stand in front of people and command attention. So I've been trying to use that desperately to try to bring attention to these things. In terms of the aggravated robberies, we've been trying to highlight for some time that fog cannons do nothing. I have desperately tried to invite the police minister and the justice minister, she's not there anymore, but the police minister to come to Hamilton. If we can do a live simulation, she can be behind the cal and I can run over the machete and see if I can get to her before she triggers the fog cannon.
And can I just add in there? So one of the client organisations we work with is Mobil Oil, and they do have fog cannons in pretty much all of their sites. But what they've done, they've gone the extra mile and they've actually got safe havens and safe zones, and they are not allowed to activate until they are in that safe zone. So what they're then doing is using their cameras, and it's about awareness. And these guys that look like there could be a problem, they flee to the safe zone, and the people can take whatever cigarettes are available and do whatever they're doing, but they can't get at the staff. So that they do have a place, Ash, but in the vast majority of installations that are being done, all they're doing is endangering people. In my opinion, I tend to agree with you. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing in the next couple of weeks.
I just want to bring your attention back to, hopefully you maybe remember some of the numbers, what I said about what some of these shops, and that's what I talk about, right? These small shops, medium-sized shops, how much they turn over, right? Every time someone shoplifts, it's a part of the soul that's been taken. My mum's been hurt in the past, I've been hurt in the past, my dad's been hurt in the past, trying to stop people, because we're not corporates, right? I may own 4 stores, but they're 4 individual stores with 3 staff to each shop. All of them have to be paid. They all have lives as well. A lot of the staff, because they work for me, they are also emotionally involved in this process. It's quite easy to say, hey, we need all these systems in place, just let them go. I'm sure in the media, you guys saw food stuff saying how much shoplifting is going up for them, and bad behavior, antisocial behavior, a significant escalation. But that's happening because, like Bruce said, and I actually agree with Bruce, he is right. We should not be stopping them. But when it's a small business owner, he or she is very emotionally involved in the business, and so is the staff as well. We've got staff that have been working for us 7 to 9 years. They're emotionally involved in all of the process as well. Their first reaction is to save property, right? No amount of training will stop them from doing that, because they don't work for a big bank that's got 10,000 staff. They don't work for Z that's got 11,000 staff, all that kind of stuff. One last thing I want to highlight to you guys. All of these criminals are getting incredibly smart, and retailers have specifically tried to highlight every escalation point. What's happening now? I'll highlight it to you guys. We put the bollards in, ram rate slowed down a little bit, sorry, but then aggregate robbery starting going up. We've started putting cages in front of our shops. We're doing all these other measures. But now, 3 weeks ago, my honey store got burgled. It was not a ram rate, it was a burglary, what we call commercial burglary.
Yep.
These guys came in with angle grinders. That's a whole different escalation. Every house and every business is so unsafe now because these new power tools are incredibly powerful. They've cut the locks right off and come in. But the biggest problem was, like Bruce said before, a lot of the ram breaks, a lot of the robberies run for 60 to 90 seconds. But in my case, and I've been in retail for 19 years, 20 years, they spent 12 minutes in my shop, looting the shop. You know why? Because these guys are incredibly smart, and the Waikato is on the old walkie-talkie police systems. So these guys are sitting in their cars, know where the cops are, how slow or fast the response is going to be. So they took their time emptying my shop out, and it has been the most devastating burglary I've ever had in the whole 20 years of running this stuff.
I think that's pretty much. Any questions? Very quickly, around the room. So the blatant advertisement for ELE security, RISQ. We do deliver training. We do security advice. And I live here. That's pretty much good enough advertisement. Yes,
I just want to say, don't be disappointed. We are incredibly, like I said before, really happy just for you guys who have been able to make it. So,
cool.
So we'll keep Bruce's details. So if any of you lose it or whatever, just call, we'll put you in touch. But I just want to thank, first off, Westpac for putting this on. This has been bloody good. Certainly to Bruce for coming along. There's a whole bunch of real good smarts in there. I suspect that we need to actually listen to them more than once to get it ingrained in what we do. Certainly the role playing is pretty smart. And thank Ash for coming along and giving us an idea of what it's like to be on the front line as a retailer. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming along. Really appreciate it.